All right, I think we are officially live. Hopefully here on Instagram, we are live. Good morning. Not good morning. I don't even know what time of day it is. Good evening, everyone. It is Tuesday night. I believe we are live here on Facebook. Yes, we are. Great. We are live as well. Sorry about the delay on Facebook there. But welcome back. Welcome back to Tuesday Night Live. Hope everybody is doing well. As you know, this is the one evening a week we get together. We learn what you guys are thinking about, what you have questions about, and really work to create a community. At the same time, I look at all the headlines and take your questions and see what we need to answer and what direction we need to go in. I love talking about health, right? Health news, and really looking at things from a holistic perspective, from a functional or integrative perspective, really merging medicine. So many of you are following me on Instagram or on Facebook. And you know that merging medicine is one of my big things, where we pull from multiple systems of medicine to get answers. And it is my passion. It is my joy. So on today's post, if you didn't see it, it's all about balancing hormones holistically. And the need and the desire for this is so great. I've got to tell you guys the story. So, we have a couple of practices here in the Atlanta area, and then we see patients virtually, and they're coming in from all over the world. But the practice is Center Spring MD. But it was fascinating today. I was at our Johns Creek location, and I actually had a patient who had driven 4 hours to come to us. And that effort truly touches my heart, but reminds me of how important it is to kind of continue this mission of changing medicine, helping people find answers, putting the pieces and the puzzle pieces together so that we really, at the end of the day, can be our most optimized self. I had another patient that had driven 3 hours from another state, and then a patient that hadn't driven from very far, but a classic example of why I do what I do. So she was going through a lot of symptoms, right? She was a mom, 2 young kids, chronic fatigue, weight gain, a little bit of depression too. But when we unraveled her story and really tried to get down to the root of it or to the heart of it, much of it was tied up in her relationship and how her relationship was making her feel disempowered and then bleeding into everything else. And here's the lesson, and here's what we keep trying to talk about over and over again. I don't talk about health just to talk about health. I don't talk about wellness just to talk about wellness. All of this changes who you are and how you play out in the world. And it changes the choices that you're going to make. Because if you're making choices from a place of not feeling great or not being in your power, those choices are going to be completely different than choices you make when you feel good and you look good and you have strength and energy and enthusiasm. And that in turn can translate down into anything you do. It was also interesting, again, all these personal stories, and I promise I'm going to get into the headlines in just a second. But as I was driving, and I had a little bit of a commute, but I'm actually liking the commute, as psycho as that might sound, because I can listen to podcasts on the way in and on the way back. And this particular podcast I was listening to was talking about leading, and not just leading in a company sort of setting, but also leading like your family or leading a group of friends or leading maybe in your school setting or your college or wherever else you may be. And they were saying the number one trait of a really strong leader is, why don't you guys guess? The number one trait of a really strong leader is actually to create energy. So think about it. If our energy is not there, then how do we project energy? How do I give you energy? How do I give you energy? How do I give energy to my team or to my family? But that generation of energy is so critical, and it's something that we're always trying to measure. And Eastern medicine talked about this all the time, that you have to understand where your energy is, what's draining it, what's depleting it, because it changes the very essence of who you are. So all of this is about you finding you, being the best version of yourself, stepping into your power, and then going out there and making a difference for your family, for the world, for your community, for your schools, for whatever it is that you want to do. All right, I'm off my soapbox. Let's move into the headlines, and then we'll take some questions. I see some questions popping out. Definitely feel free to post any questions that you have as we're moving through this. So the first one, I love the title of this one. What is going on? What's going on with COVID boosters? How do you guys feel about the COVID boosters, right? 1 minute they're in, 1 minute they're out. I would say it's pretty much par for the course of all things around this particular topic. Well, here's where everything has landed. We talked last week about how the CDC was recommending boosters, but the World Health Organization was not, simply because they were saying that there's so many countries around the world that have not gotten a booster. Well, have not gotten their first shot, leave alone a booster. Well, this week we have folks now at the FDA, right, saying boosters only for the immunocompromised and boosters for those over 65, right? Not for everybody else. So everyone out there who's like, do I get a booster? Do I get a booster? I need a booster. Simmer down. Calm down. Not everybody needs a booster. And what they're finding is that antibodies really are lasting up to 6 months. Natural immunity might be lasting even longer, meaning if you've had COVID, you may even have a stronger sort of immune response than some of the folks that have just gotten the vaccination. But immunity is lasting. Antibodies are lasting, which is good news, because the biggest challenge with many of the vaccines out there, they are mRNA vaccines. The instability of those vaccines have been such a fundamental issue that the vaccinations, are showing some antibody response for up to 6 months. So past that, there's a chance you might need a booster or a second shot. But for right now, it's only for those over 65, and it's only for those who are immunocompromised. So I thought that was interesting information. So it takes the booster out of the equation. But of course, there are other headlines around this topic too. I'm sure you're not surprised. The other one was around the J&J vaccine, which actually came out today, right? J&J saying 2 shots give you 94% sort of effectiveness against COVID, and really sort of impart the immunity that's desired. So many people were looking for J&J. They were thinking 1 and done. They're now actually recommending 2 shots. But remember, J&J is not an mRNA vaccine like the Pfizer, like the Moderna. That's the difference there. All right, so that's the news there. And then lastly, the CDC talking about our kiddos, ages 5 to 11, approving the COVID shot for that age group. Not mandated, but starting to go for approval. How do you guys feel about that? I've got to be honest. We know that this illness is very mild in children. This makes me nervous to really give them this vaccine. But they're moving full steam ahead on this. The argument is that children haven't been getting COVID, and so they don't have immunity. And I'm not following the argument. If they are not getting COVID and they don't have the immunity, and when they get COVID, it's incredibly mild, I'm not sure where that train of thought is, and all of our kids needing to run out and get vaccinated. So we'll see. My prediction is that recommendation is going to change and probably be sort of limited to certain populations of children, just like we've done for some of the adults. So keep that in mind. That's some of the vaccine news that's coming out. But again, it's changing. Said this back in March of 2020. I'm saying it now, over a year and a half later, that the information keeps changing and shifting. I think your best bets, of course, are to continue to follow the information, take the advice of your physicians and your medical team, and to also really work on protecting the immune system. I'm not going to get tired of talking about that, no matter what anybody says. I think your immune system is your weapon. What is your body doing? Do you have sort of a good B cell and T cell immunological response? Those things are dependent on things like nutrients and what sort of, are you sleeping, your gut health, hormone health, all of this stuff is all connected. And for us to assume and believe that it's not is a whole complete different story. All right, so that's all my stuff on COVID. Let me see what else. How do you guys feel about schools requiring COVID vaccination? I wonder what you guys think about that. California's done that recently. People are wondering around the country if other places will follow. But I do have some non-COVID news, and then why don't you guys post some of your questions? We can tackle those as well. So this first one's about snacking. Who out there is guilty of snacking? Raise your hand. I know we've got a lot of snackers in the audience. There's Alicia. How are you, Alicia? Hope you're doing well. Snacking is the result of so many different behaviors, right? For some people, they're super tired. They're mentally fatigued. That's a huge, myself included, that's a huge reason some of us start to snack. Others are truly having blood sugar variation, and that's the reason they start snacking. But one of the biggest reasons for snacking, according to the study from Ohio State University, is simply not sleeping. This study found that missing out on the recommended 7 or more hours of sleep per night could lead to more opportunities to making poor snacking choices, right? So if we're not getting our sleep, We're not getting deep restorative sleep. And remember, we talked about this a week or two ago. Deep restorative sleep is defined as 90 minutes of REM sleep or 90 minutes of deep sleep. And you can track a lot of the stuff using like your Fitbits and your Oura Rings and your Whoops. I don't know if you guys are into any of these different devices that are out there, but that is what it takes for the brain to rest, for cortisol levels to come down, and for your body to be like, oh my God, I'm not in danger mode. I'm actually okay. And it takes away that desire to constantly snack. So remember, with snacking, it's a lot of empty calories. In fact, this even goes on saying at night we are drinking our calories and eating a lot of convenience foods. That in turn is really upping your caloric load, is impairing digestion and gut health. And that in turn is really going to affect the one major cause of weight gain, which is insulin and insulin resistance. So really creating a window before bedtime where you're not eating, you're not drinking, the gut has an opportunity to rest, you're sort of cut off, is going to make a difference in your overall health. It'll help with weight, but it'll also help do things like bring inflammation down, reset the gut, help with metabolic health, and so much more. So just remember, if you find yourself snacking a ton, it's either mental fatigue, blood sugar instability, chronic stress, or you're not getting enough sleep at night. So keep that in mind, just for everybody out there who's trying to change their health, but finding that the forces around them are controlling them a little bit more. Okay, this one is for all the moms out there. We got a lot of moms in our audience. And for the moms out there and dads, of course, do you have a picky eater in your home? And how do you manage those picky eaters? So, Cubby was my son was a really tough eater. He was failure to thrive when he was younger. And we worked really hard to get him back up from under the 3rd percentile all the way up. Now I think he's at the 25th, still little, but not failure to thrive for sure. Now, to get him there, though, I have that anxiety, right? Do any of you experience that as moms, that anxiety? And I see it in my sister, whose little guy is doing the same thing, just not eating very much, really tiny. And so there's that chronic anxiety of, oh my God, they're not eating. This is going to happen to them. So this is talking to parents essentially about what to do with picky eaters and what works and what doesn't. So if you've got a relative or a child or someone who you might think would benefit from this information, I would definitely share it. This is coming out of the University of South Australia. And here are the top tips to help a super picky eater. So first of all, setting good examples. And I'm going to tell you guys, setting good examples is not just about the little ones who are picky eaters. It's even about our teenagers, especially our guys and girls. I was about to say girls only, but I think it's true for the guys too. There is something about modeling healthy eating for these different age groups of kids that they indirectly copy. Like, I cannot tell you, and I don't want to say too much about it because my daughter might be listening, but I can't tell you how shocked I am to see her whipping up protein shakes, counting her protein grams, really conscious of sort of what she's getting in. In fact, she's probably getting better at it than me, and she's 13. But I don't know how much is the modeling of that behavior over the years that has like seeped into her subconscious. But I think that's one really important. We want to model healthy eating. So if we as mothers are like, oh my God, I'm going to starve today, I'm not going to eat that. Or, oh my gosh, I can't believe I ate dessert, but you have all this guilt around eating, some of that you are going to translate that down into your children as well. So modeling good behavior, eating together, which is so hard as the kids get older, right? But eating together, really insisting on those family meals. I just calculated, by the way, I was just thinking about our schedule. We can have true family meals on Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday. But if we do date night, that takes Saturday out. And if the kids have a social activity, it might take Friday out. So because of sports and all the different activities that they do, we're like down to 2 or 3 true family dinners. So it's so hard to get the family to sit together and eat together, but it's so important. That's where stress comes down from the entire day. That's where shared experience strengthens that family bond. But that's also where healthy eating for any age group of kids is really modeled. So I think that's really important, is trying the best you can to have those family meals and really sit together and model that type of behavior. I think getting the kids involved in food prep, and I know that's something we've done. It's been one of our activities. You've probably seen Cubby cooking with me or in the kitchen with me. Rania does it too. But that's one way of sort of helping them get a sense of control over what they're eating, turning the TV off, making sure there's not that background noise, no phones, no TV, no distractions. This is sort of family time, just like you have me time, and everybody needs to stay focused on each other. And then trying to be calm and stress-free. And I think that's really important too. We don't want a meal where people are yelling at each other, bringing up issues of the day that are stressful, or, or bringing up old wounds that obviously can be dealt with later or in a different room. And then removing, so this is an important one for the youngsters too, right? Removing the bribes. If you eat that, you get a piece of candy. If you eat that, you get this. Just removing that, because that's creating this punishment reward system around eating that ultimately will come back and bite everybody in the where. So watching that as well, I think, is really important. So those are some of the headlines that caught my eye this week. A lot of it very COVID heavy and COVID centered. Now I'm going to get to your questions, but I have to bring this topic up because it's near and dear to my heart. I was live today with PCOS weight loss. Again, it's a great Instagram page if you got PCOS. But remember, that was a big part of my story and how I even got into integrative and functional medicine. And, PCOS continues to be one of the most gaslit sort of diagnoses that's out there, where symptoms can go on for years or months and nobody has any idea about them. So I think it's very important for all women to really pay attention to their hormone levels, to understand that they should be getting those levels checked in some sort of routine fashion, and knowing, to really advocate for themselves when something's wrong. So if you need a resource, my hormone guide is now on my website, and we posted it the other day as well on our stories. But join my tribe and you will instantly get that hormone guide in your email, along with all these other great guides and tips and tricks and things like that I've put into place to really help you guys understand how your body chemistry should really be working, right? So with PCOS, there can be insulin resistance and thyroid issues and estrogen dominance and low progesterone and all this other craziness. But you want to understand how all this chemistry works together in order to really be able to bring your health into a healing state and into a whole mode. So that was super fun today to talk to those guys and meet their community talking about PCOS. And if you have an issue with PCOS, or if you ever want to share your health story, DM me. We're doing tons of videos. We would love to interview you, find out what your journey was, what brought you success. Again, I always say this is a community. And at the end of the day, if we can all kind of come together, that is really going to be how each of you learn and how each of us are able to move forward. Okay, let's see. Someone's like, oh, thank you. I don't look rained on. That was earlier today. I literally walked outside and it was and I had frizzy day for the rest of the day. But hey, that happens sometimes. I've fluffed up a little bit in the early evening for something else I had to go to. So, but thank you. You guys are always so sweet to me. All right. How do you relieve panic attacks? Well, you just opened up a Pandora's box here. So this is a topic for sure. And let me tell you why. So more and more people in the exam room, and then even right here at home, are having issues with anxiety and with panic. We feel like it's the aftermath of the pandemic where people are having a lot of social anxiety. So I don't know if you're having social anxiety necessarily, but this stuff is real, where I've got folks afraid to go to school, getting panicked when they're in sort of a crowded situation or in a room. It's really done a number on all of us. Panic attacks are when the anxiety has just built to a point that there's then a tipping point and your heart starts racing. You probably feel sometimes like you're having an out-of-body experience. You also are, maybe having sweaty palms, or you might be paralyzed. There's so many different manifestations of panic attacks. So what can you do during a panic attack? Well, the first thing is, if you have low-grade anxiety, then I would deal with that first. And there's so many natural remedies that are very helpful. Things like magnesium that you can take at night to, again, get that deep, deep restful sleep. I think that's something that's excellent to use. You can use between 400 and up to 400 milligrams. You could go higher as well, as long as you're not having any GI issues with that. But that really does help calm the nervous system down, helps to balance serotonin for sure. So that's one you could use. You could also use something called Gaba. Gaba is very very calming. So anytime I feel like that anxiety starting to flare back up, I'll take a Gaba, maybe once or even twice a day. I usually say you can do 200 milligrams up to 3 times a day, and that will calm the anxiety down. Or another one of my favorites is something called theanine, which is naturally derived from tea, and doing about 200 milligrams of that 3 times a day is really important. Now, even here at home, my daughter was having some issues with this, and as she cut caffeine, right, she was drinking too much caffeine, so make sure that's not you. Between caffeine, not sleeping, a hormone shift like low progesterone, nutrient deficiencies, that is a soup, right? That is cooking up some serious anxiety and some serious panic right there. So cut the caffeine, work on consistent sleep, add magnesium, get your hormones checked, because low progesterone or an imbalanced thyroid can definitely be at the root of anxiety. And of course, really think about that stress management plan that's going to work for you. That could be yoga or meditation or guided imagery, it doesn't matter, but try to do something that's going to work to calm your nervous system down. The stuff is real. It hurts. So many of you tell me how non-functional you are. Please, please, please talk to your doctor about it, and definitely try to get the help you need so that you can help kind of overcome this particular issue. All right. So I'm hoping that's helpful when it comes to panic attacks. And again, for low-grade anxiety, I'm going to stress this too. For anxiety or depression, no shame, please, no shame if you need a medication. There's so much guilt around, oh my gosh, I'm on a medication, I'm a failure, right? I know you're thinking that. Can you raise your hand? You can wave to me if you're thinking that, because I know that comes up over and over again. Here's the deal. This is a toolbox. This is not a black or white road. This is a toolbox that we're trying to expand and help everyone understand that, yes, ideally we start with food as our medicine. We move to nutrients and hormone balancing and mind-body regimens and things like acupuncture and massage and yoga and all that great stuff. But if you've given that a go and it's still a no, well then, it's okay. It's okay to think about medication. And the best news of all, medication used to be kind of like Russian roulette. It's like, okay, I feel like prescribing this to you today, so we're going to try that. Now we have testing. There's testing called the PGX-1, where we can match your genetics to the right medications for you to take. So again, it doesn't have to be so much of a guesswork, but it may say, hey, you'll do well on this anxiety medication, this SSRI, but please prescribe a very low dose. Or it may say, if you prescribe this particular medication, you're going to need a ton of it because this person metabolizes it based on their genetics very rapidly. So again, remembering that the medication conversation is not taboo. It can be personalized to you and your care, but it's also not supposed to be like, okay, try these 12 medications and then, you should be fine. Call me in the morning. That's not the answer as well. So we're trying to expand this toolbox, give you more options, build from the ground up, but also have a strategy that when you're getting in trouble and when really, because a lot of this chemistry work takes time. It's not going to happen overnight. It happens slowly, right? So the idea there is like, well, while this is still cooking and happening and you're shifting your body chemistry, well, let's make sure you still feel okay in your own skin and in your own body, because anxiety and panic, guys, is real. And I get to see it over and over and over again. All right. So if you're out there, get help. DM me. I'm happy to help anybody, direct them in the right direction. Is that too many directions? But anyhow, point them in the right direction and help them, help you guys get answers for sure. All right. Well, that's all I've got. I don't think we have any more questions popping up. You guys are a little quieter today. Hang on. We've got a few comments here. This is about COVID, I think. It is mild for kids now. The Delta variant is worse for the kids. Delta variant is worse in kids now. Absolutely. I've seen that too. Breakfast. Let's see what else is going on. Booster, if you are an essential worker, I think it's if you don't have antibodies. I don't think it has anything to do with being an essential worker or not. It's whether you have an antibody response or not. Can you test your hormones? That's such a great question. Can you test your hormones at any time of the month? So I get asked this question all the time. And the conventional answer is, oh my gosh, you have to do day 3 labs, or you have to know, certain places where you are in your cycle to interpret hormone labs. And to a point, that is absolutely true, because if you don't know where you are, it's hard to understand, what the numbers mean. But there are some absolutes where women should not be dropping below or above. So like, with that, we've established that in the practice that we never want a progesterone when you're looking at it on LabCorp request to be under 0.5. We never want an estradiol to be over 200 or an estrone. So there's some absolutes that we know for sure, no matter where you are in your cycle, that we can use as guides to be like, are you an estrogen dominant person? Are you low progesterone? Do we need to be doing something about this? And if we do, where do we begin? So my short answer is yes, you can check them at any time of the month. You do need to know where they are, but you do need to have someone to help you understand them. And again, my hormone guide has the ranges that we sort of think of as acceptable for the majority of our population. All right. Painful cramps. What do we got? Painful cramps during menstruation. Yes. So painful cramps during menstruation are going to be a sign of low magnesium, low calcium sometimes, believe it or not, dehydration, or again, estrogen dominance, where you want to be able to break estrogen down a little bit better. So try maybe starting with magnesium. Again, I told you it's the miracle micronutrient. So maybe start with that. We have a product on the East West Way line called Serenese. That's something you can try a scoop of, mix it in water and take that at night, and that might help you with your cramps as well. Look at your estrogen to progesterone ratios. And then an old home remedy is to do those castor oil packs to the belly. Did you guys ever hear about that? Did your mom or anyone ever talk about that? But that's where you take like a washcloth dipped in castor oil, you put it down on your belly, you put a dry towel, the castor oil towel, the heating pad on top of it, and that helps it to kind of soak in and is supposed to kind of calm those cramps down. Okay, repost it. Yes, I post all these lives they live on my Facebook page and YouTube as well. And then they're on my IGTV page for Instagram. So you should be able to find those there. When we're done here, I'll definitely post those right away. And then lastly, read Positive Anxiety. That's a great idea. Any anxiety books will be helpful. Read Positive Anxiety. Okay, we've got one more. I've got to address it. Are you able to address the comment from your patient regarding drinking 2 vodka drinks per day every day of the week and the impacts on your overall health? So yes, you guys saw I posted that, right? So patients, I feel like you guys bargain, right? Bargaining. Well, I'm drinking alcohol, but there's no sugar in it, so I'm okay. Here are the fun facts. The fun facts are all alcohol turns to sugar, ultimately, by the body. All alcohol is going to worsen something called candida, or the overgrowth of yeast in your gut, which is going to make insulin resistance worse. And for those of us who are in that PCOS world, it makes our androgens worse. So it's a recipe for hair loss and acne and all this other stuff. All alcohol will do it, whether you dress it up or dress it down or change your brands or change your types, alcohol will do that. So really the guidelines are to stay under 4 drinks a week. Really no more than about 4 drinks a week. Now, you may have a big event, you might have a big blowout, that's life, right? But it's the daily rhythm that I think a lot of us are really worried about. People drinking 2 drinks every night, that's 14 a week, guys. That's a lot. That's almost 1,400, that's almost 3,000 extra calories a week, so there's the caloric load, there's the gut impact, there's the liver impact. And I think these are all things you've got to take super, super seriously, because our livers, which we could do at a different time, but our livers are under assault. We already have really sluggish livers from the environmental load, the chemical load, the stress we have, the medications we take, the hormones we do. For those of you out there as women who are doing IVF and IUI and all these other procedures, for those of you who are plastic surgery folks and are doing a lot of procedures there, if you're getting anesthesia, you have a toxic liver. And the problem with the toxic liver is it's going to do its best, just like anything else. It's going to try as hard as it can, but just like any broken car, it's going to give up. And when it does so, it really messes with insulin production. So that's when you start to see cholesterol go up and your triglycerides go up and your insulin go up. And what you see in the mirror is weight gain, right? So it's the belly weight, the hip weight, the back fat, all of these things that once it appears, it becomes very difficult for it to go away. So under 4 drinks a week, you have a big party, a wedding, bar mitzvah, whatever it is, we understand, but there should be an opportunity to detox afterwards and to kind of tone it down. It's the daily rhythmic thing that is a problem. And we, first of all, as a nation, need to watch it, but I think every culture is doing it, just doing it in different ways. I think, sophisticated Europeans and Americans are drinking a lot of wine. Other folks are drinking a ton of beer. It's across the board. So I think it's just something that we need to pay attention to. All right. So hopefully that's helpful information when it comes to alcohol and the effect it has on your body. And I think we might be, oh goodness, one more. Okay. What type of magnesium? I like a mag chelate because it's really good generally. It's usually a form of like a threonate and a citrate and a glycinate all together. I like citrates. Remember, I like mag citrate for the gut. I like threonates if you're really just cognitively focused and you're really worried about anxiety. But I like the mix of all of them to really help sort of deliver like a one-punch solution when we're talking magnesium. Magnesium's incredible. It is incredible. It is probably the one thing that you can't go wrong if you take it. Brand. So of course, I'm going to recommend the East West Way, which is my brand, give a shout out, but that is a powder. So that's a mag chelate, but it's a powder. And then Metagenics makes a great mag chelate as well that you can order. And you can order a lot of the stuff off the websites. It's theeastwestway.com or centerspringmd.com. Those are great resources for you guys as well. All right, 9:30. We hit it on the dot. I'm sure you guys have better things to do and places to be. So I will see you back. Where am I next Tuesday? I should be able to be back here next Tuesday. In the interim, remember, DM me your questions. I collect them all week long, and we'll come back here and tackle them all again. All right, guys, take care. Good night.